Hey girl, how are ya?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. Lots of things going on in Legion's news this week.
Yeah.
Um, you guys were at ZoloCon. How awesome was
Oh,
that?
so much fun. Just the best time. So many
And
great people.
yeah, so you got to see a lot of the people from the community,
Mhm.
as well as meet new people. Were you around when they were like new people were coming up and buying stuff? Did you see any of that?
I did see some new people. I did meet like a couple new people.
That's
Um, but yeah, it was really great.
oh, how wonderful. I love it. I love it. I love it. And let's see. We have the in-stock sale was the same weekend as ZoloCon. So you
Yeah.
were probably busy at ZoloCon and not shopping.
Yeah, didn't get a thing.
Now, my understanding is there's still some more on the website. So if you haven't shopped the in-stock sale, storehorseman.com, go shop and get some great deals on some great figures.
Yeah.
We did a little bit of shopping, but not a whole lot. And then Poxus, just gonna slide it over. Got a few opening a few of them. So excited.
Oh,
Did you guys get any of them?
we did it all in. So we're working our way through the figures.
Yeah, we are too. We don't open them all at once. We do them
Yeah.
one at a time and really
Yep.
enjoy them and play with them and then open the next one. So we're right there with you, girl. And then we have coming up the retailers, the two
Oh yeah.
retailers, Lee J and Blue Hagnon, are
Mhm.
March 6th, I think, is the ship date on those. And then the, the Brute Scale are also
Yep.
shipping retailers at that same time. So lots and lots of stuff going on in the Legions world. Um, who do we have with us tonight?
Oh, we have. Let's see. Let's start at the beginning. We have Dave Orkin,
Dave.
code name New to Vero 2.
Awesome.
We have Stoat, or is it Stout? Stoat. Yeah. And then we have Rygon and Rob Zamora. We've got Jimmy,
Hey, Jimmy.
Jordan. Hi, Jordan. Nathan, Kempool. We have Dylan,
Hey, Dylan.
Stacey Lynn,
Cincy.
Literally Action Figs,
Hey, hey.
Curtis Ackerman.
Hey, Curtis.
Let's see, Nate Strong,
Hey, Nate.
Jackie.
Hey, Jackie.
We have Brett. Hi,
Hi, Brent.
Brett. And Jacob.
Hey,
We have
Jacob.
Darla Ackerman.
Hey,
Sweet.
Darla.
Photo Gumby. And that is everyone, I believe. I hope I didn't miss anyone.
Okay, awesome. Well, welcome everybody. I know you're not here to see me and Amber because we're not here to see each other either. Um, we are super excited to welcome our guest, and I am just so thrilled. I cannot even express how happy I am to have them on. They were gracious in coming, so we definitely want to get them on quick because we have
Yeah.
lots and lots of questions to ask. So if you guys will help us welcome John and Rebekah McDonald from Simple Tricks and Nonsense. Hey, John. Hey,
Hey, how's it going?
Rebekah. Good. How are you guys doing?
Good, good.
We're doing good, yeah.
Awesome. Well, we are super excited to have you guys on the channel. I know that I just have so many questions and I'm so excited. Um, so let's just jump in. First of all, let's go way back. So when did you guys, like, when you were kids, did you collect action figures? Or
Yeah,
go ahead,
yeah.
Rebecca.
I don't know if I would call it. Do kids collect action? I guess they do. We just play with them. I certainly didn't take care of them the way I do now, but I was actually pretty good with my action figures. I didn't ruin them. I didn't cut off all my Barbie's hair and make crazy Barbie, but yeah. But yeah, the toys are just a huge part of my childhood. So
That's awesome. And John?
I started out with Star Wars figures,
Yeah.
and then I had a huge collection of those. My family was very keen to try to only get one thing going. I wasn't one of those kids who had, like one figure here and one of this and one of that. I had a pretty big Star Wars collection, and then by about 82, 83, when Star Wars was starting to fade, I transitioned over to GI Joe, and I had a big GI Joe collection.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, my husband collected Star Wars figures, and so he and I have known each other many, many years. And so when we first got together, like, he still had all of his Star Wars figures that he got when he was 8, and still has them to this day. So that seems to be a jumping off point for a lot of people as far as grabbing those. Now, what drew you from Star Wars to G.I. Joe? Like, what age do you think that the transition was made?
Well, I mean, so like I said, you had three-year gaps between the Star Wars movies, and by the time we were getting to Return of the Jedi, everybody knew that was going to be the last movie.
Right.
So G.I. Joe came out in '82, right as things were starting to fade, and then there was that surge when Return of the Jedi did come out. There's a whole bunch of cool new stuff that did happen, but at the same time there was something competing with it. And now you had G.I. Joe, where it's like, oh well, instead of just 5 points of articulation, it had all this extra articulation, this with it, and you had motorized vehicles and all this other stuff, and coming from a family that had a lot of people in the military. And, in the 80s, we were still in the Cold War, and, you had all the action movies, and all the canon action movies, and all the Vietnam movies. So it was just an easy transition to get into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So how many, and both of you please answer, how many of your action figures or toys that you had when you were young do you still have, like, today?
oh gosh, probably less than 20% for me. Like a lot of them, I started collecting as I became an adult and got back into things.
Right.
Because I went through that phase where it's like I didn't want to be seen as a little kid anymore, so I gave away my dolls and all my figures and stuff. So I regretted that later on. So I started collecting all my She-Ras and Masters of the Universe and all that stuff. So
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I have probably about the same amount, because
you still
same
have
kind of
you
thing
got
happened.
definitely have more than me though. You still have all your Star Wars and
See, I inherited, like, as my friends, especially with GI Joe, as my friends were aging out of it, I was still into it. They were hitting like 12 and 13, and they're like, oh, that's for little kids, and I want to do this, and I want to ride skateboards and ride my bike and all that kind of stuff. No, I'm kind of still into it. So as they were aging out, I was getting their collection.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, oh well, look, my collection just grew by a third, and then another friend would age out, and I would get their collection. And then when I finally got to the point where it was like, yeah, I have a part-time job and I'm going surfing and I care about girls more than toys, then I just gave my stuff to my cousins. Like, a lot of my stuff went to my cousins.
Gotcha.
And then certain things I kept. But I mean, here in Florida, it's not like, I noticed something like at toy shows up north, because they have a colder climate and basements, toys, especially box toys, like, have survived.
Right.
Where in Florida, because we only have attics, like everything deteriorates so much faster because of the heat. You know, you
Yep.
don't find the box toys. You like all the plastic on vehicles, you know, like Star Wars vehicles or GI Joe vehicles and stuff like that. It deteriorates a lot faster because of dry rot or because of oxidation. You know, everything gets more yellow. So, you know, a lot of that stuff didn't survive.
Yeah, we deal with the same thing. It seems like some of you know, Kevin's Star Wars figures that he bought after several years, like all the plastic on the front is either deteriorating or has turned yellow. So if you didn't open them, you're dealing with a lot of that. So yeah, I can relate to that really well. Now you are both like, I see what you're wearing, and I know that you gotta have art in your background. So can you kind of, Rebekah, if you'll start, tell me kind of where the art started and what you're doing and how it all like came together, and kind of just lead us up into, do you do art as a job now? Is that something that is, you know, what you do? Can you kind of bring us forward through the art in your background?
I started when I was a kid because my aunt got me a Fimo epoxy sculpt kind of set when I was a kid. My whole family was always very encouraging with the arts. Like a lot of my brothers and sisters and my mom and going back to my grandma who was an actress, it's just always kind of been in the family. It was just that artistic kind of spirit. And so yeah, that was always encouraged. So just ever since I can remember, I was repainting my toys or drawing or sculpting something. So, and then as I got into my teens, like all those things kind of amped up, and I mainly focused on painting. And while I was really young, like still a teenager, I got discovered by the author of The Last Unicorn because I did some Last Unicorn artwork. And he handpicked me to do the cover of several Last Unicorn books for him. So while I was like 17, I got my artwork published on The Last Unicorn. So that was pretty amazing. And
So I have,
there it is. You have this?
well, I have a photo of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm amazed. I mean, like, it is awesome to see, like, how amazing that is. Now, you were 17 when this was published?
Yes.
Wow.
That's so awesome.
It's so funny. People are like, wow. To me, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so much better now. Like, put it away.
But as a 17-year-old, to have that published is pretty amazing, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. And then I've been published in a few things because I also did art dolls. So I've had 2 of my art dolls published in Art Doll magazine before it was discontinued, I think a couple years ago. So yeah, I had a few things published. Yeah, there's my skeleton red shoes doll and my mermaid art doll. So yeah, I've just always been into sculpting and painting and
so
those are fantastic.
yeah, they're amazing. I mean, you make the cover here with that. It's just beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
So is that what you do now? Are you still doing art now as like a job? Is that something?
Not as much as I want to. It seems like cosplay is kind of taken over at the moment, but I mean, I'm always kind of evolving and doing different things at different parts of my life. It's just kind of like, for a few years I'll just be focusing on cosplay, and then probably another few years I'll just be like, well, I'm just gonna sculpt, or make paintings or whatever. So yeah, right now my life's more about cosplay and like the con circuit.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And John, how about you?
almost the same thing, only I was never published. So, I had an artistic family too, or I do have an artistic family. My dad was into painting and sculpture and drawing. I had an aunt who was the same way. In fact, not that long ago, we had to send her a bunch of her artwork that was still left here in our house. And then my grandfather was into doing like life casts and molding and stuff like that. He was into working with ceramics, and a lot of his stuff wasn't so much miniature. He was doing life casts of people's faces or trying to create sculptures. He also did a lot of woodwork too. So we used to have some wood carved statues of him. But everything he made ended up looking like him. So it looked like an old wizard, or it looked like old Obi-Wan Kenobi or Gandalf, because that's kind of how he looked. So everything just looked like that.
Our Vincent Price, there was a sculpture of his face. It was a casting of his face, and I was like, "Is that a Vincent Price sculpture?" And he's like, "No, that's just my granddad." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And what do you do now, John?
I work as maintenance at a movie theater.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. That's awesome. So going back to some of your art, and I don't know when all of that started, but these are actual sculptures. So you actually
Yes.
sculpted all of this, and I'm guessing you sewed the skirt and all of that as well.
Yeah. She's made entirely out of epoxy sculpts. Yeah.
Wow.
And then I fabricate. I actually have a little video up of me time lapse of me sculpting her, because I started to get into that a little bit of just a time lapse video. But,
So where can they go to see some of this art?
Oh gosh, I'll have to dig it up.
But I mean, is it on your
It'll be on my Facebook page. So,
Facebook page? Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to
All right.
find it. But
Okay. And then this is just beautiful. And
Oh,
one of
yeah.
the pictures that John sent to me showed the tail, and you can see through it. It looks like it's
yeah, it's fabric. I've put the fabric up inside. So I just sculpted the tail, those 3 points that you see, and then inside of it, I glued the fabric to it.
Gotcha. Rebecca, this is amazing. I mean, absolutely beautiful.
Thank
Just
you.
blew me away seeing this.
She was very tiny.
Yeah, I
She
cannot.
could fit in the palm of your hand. She was very little.
Wow. And then these are 2 more sculptures that you've done.
Yeah.
Again, gorgeous.
Thank you.
Was
And-
it nerve-wracking having your stuff made published?
It was a little bit, especially at 17. I didn't know quite how to process it. I was excited, but it got a little overwhelming. But obviously exciting too. But
Yeah.
now I look back, I'm just like, oh, I'm so grateful for that. But yeah,
So cool.
It's beautiful.
this is more Last Unicorn artwork, and then my little Tinkerbell here.
Yeah, that is just gorgeous. I love it. And then you go into creating figures, your custom figures, and this I saw was just an early rendition of a couple of customs that you did.
Oh yeah, these are some of my earliest customs. So around the same time I was painting, I was doing these as well, just because I wanted them. As a little kid, I had the She-Ra dolls, and it always kind of I wanted them to look like how they did in Filmation.
Yeah.
So I would just make what I wanted, So
Awesome.
so yeah, these were really early on in my customing.
That's
creations.
okay. And
Oh
then
yeah, these are my more recent ones.
these are more recent, and we're going to go back and forth because I didn't have on a lot of these. I knew that those were some of the first ones.
Yeah.
But we're going to go back and forth on some of these because I think they're amazing.
So I've got Sula from the Conan the Barbarian comics and Lauren from Fire and Ice.
Fire and Ice.
And
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, I made the Fire and Ice ones before the Dark Wolf one was announced. So I was just like, wouldn't it be awesome to have Fire and Ice toys? And I had gotten a whole bunch of bodies to make Dark Wolf, and then he was announced probably like a year after I made Lauren and Tigra. So I was like, I don't need to make him.
Next, I was
And now I'm like,
yeah.
now I'm like, well, I don't. I'm gonna get the Tigra, of course, when she comes out. She looks absolutely gorgeous. But
Isn't she beautiful? Oh, I can't
oh,
wait.
thank you.
I am like blown away at how beautiful you have made these. I mean, they are absolutely gorgeous. And then again, like I said, we're going back and forth. I think it is really cool the way you have her drawn and then you have her created.
Yeah, well, these were more original designs. Somebody had contacted me and they were like, could you do me some She-Ra customs? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And they're like, and they threw out the idea, like, what about some of the creatures and like steeds that they had, but done in humanoid like versions of them? And I was like, okay. I'm like, well, nobody's done that, so I had to sit down and draw like what that character, what this lion person would look like as a humanoid. So that's where these came from. And this wasn't. This was part of an unreleased playset for She-Ra. They were going to do a Whispering Wood playset, and in that playset, there was a microphone, very much like Snake Mountain, that was shaped like this beautiful woman, but she was just pink. So I got to pick out the colors for her that I wanted, and I kept the pink like overall tone of it, but just gave her, a human skin tone, and yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And that was a giant seahorse in the She-Ra Princess of Power toy.
Well, and what I love is in your, drawing, you have the Triton with looks like the horns on top. And then when you did it in actuality, it still has that same look. I mean, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
And then
that's the whole set that they asked me for, so.
That's gorgeous.
That's so cool.
And there's Galactic Defender She-Ra, which was a classics toy release, but somebody wanted her done in the original She-Ra style. And then, of course, Empress Frosta.
Right.
And there's my Glimmer next to the original Glimmer toy. And that's what I was talking about, how I was like, I always wanted them to look, I preferred the Filmation looks. Like, I love the dolls for what they were, but like, as a kid, I always like wanted what I saw on the TV.
Right.
So that's why I was like, let me make both. So yeah, I have both. And then the furthest one on the screen with the purple skin, that's Huntara. She's a Filmation character, one of my favorite Filmation characters in She-Ra.
She is amazing.
Yeah.
So those are just the ones that I had that I went through real quick and brought up. And I know that you've got more. One of the things that John had told me was that you have a box of just plain figures that you use when you create these.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit about like how you go about?
Well, the funny thing is, I just when I was recollecting like my She-Ra figures, because I would buy lots of them, because back then like they weren't as, I guess they were easier to come by. So I would just buy lots of them for like $20, and because I needed this one figure inside of it, so I was like, well, what am I going to do with all these other figures? I could resell them as is, or I could just turn them into something else. So that's where that kind of came from with that. So yeah, I still have a box of She-Ra and Masters of the Universe bodies. I do feel bad. I won't, if it's like in great condition, I won't customize it, because I'm like, somebody will probably appreciate one that's in this, like, that doesn't have scratches on her hair's still proper color or whatever. So
It looks like Steph Ork wanted to know what kind of fodder you look for.
I don't know really. Yeah, I don't know really. But where was I? I forget where I was at. Oh yeah, I was talking about the lots of figures I have, and then I have another box just filled with all sorts of kind of figures that were like that are all over the place. So it has like Marvel Legends in there and classics and all that stuff that I have parts for, arms and legs and all that stuff.
Gotcha. So you just look for a thing. I mean, you just purchase figures, and then when you get an idea, you look through and see what you have that can create that figure.
Yeah. Before I try and hunt down something to create a certain
Right.
figure. Yeah.
Got
Like it was for those Fire and Ice ones. It was hard finding a female figure with bare feet.
Oh yeah.
For Tigra.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I ended up finding the Tigra. Interesting enough how their names are so similar. Tigra from the Marvel Legends had bare feet. I just had to trim her claws because she had little claws. So I just gave her a little pedicure.
Now that would have been fun.
I should, yeah. Next time I should film that. That'd be
Yeah. Given an action figure a pedicure.
exactly.
That's cool. I think somebody said, have you made any figures of some of the cosplay that you guys have, some of the cosplays that you guys have done?
Not really. Not like ones that's specifically based on a cosplay that I did, but I did like some similar, the same characters that I've made customs for. I've made costumes of.
Gotcha.
And definitely planning some that I've done figures for. So
that's amazing. Okay. So when did you guys like meet?
I'll let John take it since I've been talking for a while.
How did you meet? When did you meet? What?
It depends. It depends on where you. We can. So I knew her older sister because her older sister worked at the same movie theater that I had, even though I wasn't there at that time. And then later, when I went back and I was working at that same theater, I was then working with her older brother, and then later a different older sister. But the funny thing is, that's not like the first time. Like the very first time we could have met or potentially met was there was a we didn't learn this until like a million years later. But the very first, so in the 90s, when for whatever reason they thought they could film a whole bunch of TV shows and movies in Florida, even though there's like no locations because Florida's just all swamp. They were filming an episode of Sequest at the local community college because it has a kind of a futuristic planetarium. And rumor had gotten out. They're like, hey, Mark Hamill's here. Mark Hamill's here. It's like, oh, they're filming an episode of Sequest. Mark Hamill's over at the planetarium. So a small group of people who heard this started gathering over there, and they were waiting to see Mark Hamill. And I was actually going to school at the time there. And so we were camping out, hoping to get autographs and stuff like that. And then come to find out years later, Becky and her family were there too at that same time getting autographs and whatnot. And then it wasn't until a million years later, we're dating. And then it's like, you were there at that same time? Like back in 1995 or whatever, what that was? It's like, oh my God. So, our families, our paths have crossed. Like her family is huge into Lord of the Rings when it came out. And when I was working at the theater, I saw them up there all the time, and I saw her. And then years later, her sister was hosting Halloween parties. And one of the Halloween parties, I saw her, and she was dressed up as Peter Pan. And we were just talking about this and that. It's like, hey, yeah, you like to make costumes? I like to make costumes. And then we just started working on projects together.
So you worked on projects together and then just decided to start dating?
Yeah, we were friends for a good while before we started dating.
That's the best kind.
Yeah.
Best kind.
Yeah.
So how long after you said, okay, we're going to date, did you actually finally get married?
Like a million years.
We probably
No,
we dated for 8 years before we got married.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my husband and I are 10. So right there with you. So that's awesome. Now you, in your story, you said that you guys started making costumes together, like back before you dated, you were friends or whatever. How did you two get into like cosplay? What drew you to that form of art?
Again, it's just creativity, just an outlet for more creativity. Yeah, and just a chance to learn something new, because a lot of the reasons why I like doing so many different things is I do like learning how to do different things, and like, okay, I know how to paint now, I know how to sculpt now. Don't know how to make costumes, make life-size things like that. So yeah, I started, my first costume was when I was 13, and I made a Xena Warrior Princess costume. Well, I should say my sister helped me make a Xena Warrior Princess costume, and that was the first con that I attended, was a Xena con in my little Xena outfit.
That's awesome.
That's so
So John, when did you start like doing cosplay costumes? I mean,
Oh, well, they always, when I was a kid, the Halloween was a big deal because we would always dress up for Halloween. And so I had, that creative side of my family would dress me up. They're like, oh, well, he's the only kid in the house, so let's put this on him. Let's make this for him, whatever it might be. And, my dad was into it, like at the, company Halloween party, or if Halloween fell on a work day, he would dress up before he went to work and stuff like that. So he would do a lot of just kind of scavenging and repurposing and whatnot. And, I would be like a galactic bounty hunter. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's just elbow pads and a helmet and a respirator and this and that. And this is spray painted. And it kind of looks like it. It's one of those where you just scavenge in your closet and you assemble it. So for a long time, that's kind of what I had. And then just Halloween got bigger and bigger. It became that excuse to like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. Or like now I'm going to get several of my friends. We're going to try to do like a group together to like fill out this whole ensemble. And then probably about 2004 or so, 2005, going to different conventions and seeing that people were dressing up at conventions, and then making the realization that you don't have to only dress up once a year. You could, every time there's a convention, that's your excuse to dress up.
right.
So then by about 2008, it was like, okay, I'm all in. I can do. Still, a lot of my stuff was the repurposing or going out and finding stuff from thrift stores or surplus stores to try to match what I needed to, and then doing just slight modifications to it. And then over time, it was, learning to sew was out of necessity, because you would ask people like, hey, could you sew this for me? And before you know how to sew, you think it's something easy.
Yeah.
You think you're like, oh, there's nothing to this. Sew me a jacket with like 10 pockets on it, and then you don't realize what you're asking of the other people. And then once you start taking that on for yourself, you're like, oh, this is why everybody turns me down, or they don't want to do it, or
It takes a long
they drag their
time.
feet. Yeah, it makes sense. Like I wouldn't want to do it either,
Right.
So you end up learning to sew because you kind of have to, because you want to try to accomplish these things, and there's no other way around it, And it's the same thing with learning like sculpting, or learning different techniques of painting, or whatever it might be. It's like, well, to accomplish what you want to do, there's no other way around it. You're going to have to like learn that skill, or, hopefully make enough money to pay somebody to do it. But, when you're poor, you end up just learning that skill.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. Now, when did you guys start doing like the cons together and have your cosplay kind of go together? Like your
2013 or 14, I think, is when we started doing cons together.
Yeah, we went to a convention together, but it wasn't it. One of our first
Oh, yeah, I
conventions that
forgot
we went
about
together.
that,
She
yeah.
was Supergirl, and I was a bounty hunter from Star Wars.
Gotcha.
So, it didn't go together. It wasn't until sometime later where we were like, okay, yeah, let's work on a theme and let's do this.
Mhm.
We used to go to Dragon Con routinely, and that was always like, okay, yeah, let's do this and let's do that. And we had other friends. We have a friend from Australia, so we would try to coordinate and try to get everybody to do a thing, and
That's
that
cool.
became like a recurring tradition.
So Dragon Con is Atlanta, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, Labor Day weekend. Yeah.
Gotcha. Just want to make sure I had it right in my head. So is Dragon Con, do you think, the biggest convention that you guys have gone to, like, to cosplay?
I think that would be MegaCon Orlando. It used to be the biggest one, but MegaCon Orlando has taken off, and it's almost become too big for us. We're like, this is a little insane.
Wow.
Like, if you have like big costume, it's impossible to get around. So it's just like, yeah, we kind of started skipping that one.
Gotcha.
It's
but
also,
yeah, I think Dragon Con was the biggest one. Besides
Dragon
MegaCon.
Con. It stay at like 88,000 or like 80,000. It stayed, it wasn't. MegaCon, they were boasting that it was getting like 100,000 people.
Yeah, but
Whereas, like,
in
Dragon
one
Con was about
hotel
80.
where Dragon Con has 6 hotels and it's doing
Yeah.
less people. So, yeah,
Wow.
that's how crazy MegaCon is.
Yeah, that's a
It
lot.
needs 6 hotels for how big it gets.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's huge. So I've got some pictures, and we're going to go through some of these and kind of talk about your process and things. Like, I really want to know, like, when you create a costume, like, where do you start? Where do you first think about it, and kind of how do you go through like the mechanics of making it? And thank you, John, for sending me some or for sending me the art pictures. But here are some that I think are awesome. Now, this, you are again in a magazine.
Yeah.
And this is amazing. Like,
Oh, thank you. This
so,
is one of our first builds together.
oh,
We were
really?
in-
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the things, as he asked me at the Halloween party, he was like, oh, well, what's your dream cosplay? I was like, oh, one day I would love to do the Metropolis robot. And he said, well, that's one of mine, but obviously I'm a guy, so I'm not going to, wear it. So he wanted to help make it. So it was like, well, you want to make it, I want to make it, let's make it together. So
That is amazing. Now, how did you, what did they do? Like, did they come up and say, hey, we want to use your picture in a magazine? How did that come about?
yeah, they just hit me up through Facebook saying, we'd love to use your picture in the cosplay magazine. So I was like, yeah, of course. Like, feel free to use any pictures you want from it.
That's cool. All right, now, since this is one of your first ones, be a great one just to kind of start with. Like, did you like sculpt the face? How do you start that process?
We have a casting of my face. So over top of that, I just sculpted the face part first, and then of course we do a mold and then castings of that. The rest of it is all either vacuum formed. For the body part, I got a mannequin and just sculpted over top of that all the details and stuff that you see in the torso. And that was vacuum formed after I had done the additive sculpting on it. And then for the thighs and the wrists and everything, that was just expanded PVC sheet. that John just like worked around me. He heated it up and worked it around me.
And then once you get it all sculpted, you try it on to make sure that all the parts and pieces fit.
Yep.
And
Make
then
sure we don't have to adjust anything.
okay, and then you paint it.
Mhm.
Now, especially like this one, how hard is it to get into and out of like this costume?
I can't do it by myself. John has to help me get into it because as you see with the arms, after a certain point, I can't move them other
Right.
than my joints. But this took us what 7 minutes to get into.
Yeah, it takes
For you to put me
7
in there?
minutes.
Yeah,
Oh, that's not bad.
and
And
the
then
longest I've worn it was 3 hours. I toughed it out to 3 hours, and that was at Dragon Con.
Wow. So like when you go to Dragon Con and you're in this and you're, walking around and people are stopping you, taking pictures and stuff like that, and you're coming up on 3 hours, like what do? Do you just like, okay, we're out?
Yeah,
Come on, get me out of here, John.
exactly.
So do you go back?
I'll let him know. I'm like, hey, I'm getting there. We should start heading back. I can. We're at the point now where we can kind of read each other and be like, hey, I'm getting. I can tell I can only last another, 30 minutes in this thing. So we're like, okay, well, let's start heading back.
Gotcha. So when you go back, like you're headed back to your room, you take this off. Are you done then? Do you like?
It depends. I think after this one, I went and we took like a break. We got lunch and whatever, and then I changed to another costume.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Well, remember, we took a bin. You had a change of clothes, and we took the bin that came in, and like
That
we
was
kind
for
of
one of the ones, yeah.
yeah, and we drug the bin around so that anytime you got like tired, you could just like drop out of it and just put on normal clothes, and we put it in the bin,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, I forgot we did that. Yeah, that was clever.
That is clever. So you were able to uh, drop in and out of it as needed. It wasn't something that you had to be in for a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
That
After that first Dragon Con, that's how we worked out wearing it.
that's awesome. That's
a
great.
lot of times at conventions, you'll be the place where you want to be in costume. A lot of times it's so remote or such a distance from where all your stuff is that it'll be exhausting just going from the room to where you want to be in costume. So a lot of times you try to travel stripped down with as few parts as possible, especially something that's covering you from head to toe, so that your endurance level can last as long as possible while in costume. So in this case, we had the costume parts in the bin, a good portion of them, and she wasn't fully suited up yet until we got to the Marriott Hotel, which is where everybody goes to show off their cosplays and stuff. And then when we got to the Marriott, we found a corner that wasn't occupied, which is feat in itself. And then we went ahead and dressed her up the rest of the way, and then just kind of toted the bin around, an empty bin around with us while she was in costume. And then when she was ready to get out of it, it's like, okay, well, you have a change of clothes and whatnot. We'll just take off the majority of it and toss it in the bin. But
Yeah.
if you have to, there's no way certain costumes you're going to put it on and you're going to walk 2.5, 3 blocks in it,
God, yeah.
in Atlanta heat, and then expect to actually like roam around and show it off. It's not going to happen.
Right. I gotcha. All right. Let's look at a couple more because, like, this is crazy. You guys have done Star Wars several times, and I love this, but this is, I mean, did you guys sculpt his head, and like, how did all of that come about?
Yeah, John sculpted the head on that thing.
Oh
So-
my!
I think I helped a little bit with it, but I think that was all you.
Yeah, she for her Twi'lek, she sculpted her own head tails and whatnot.
Right.
She,
Oh yeah, I was talking about Quiggled. Sorry.
she sewed her own bodysuit, all that stuff.
Yeah.
When it came to the guy in the middle, that's actually my dad in that costume, and
So cool.
we sculpted the head, the hands, the leg, all that kind of stuff. We tried to bulk it up to make him bigger because the character's supposed to be heavier.
Right.
And then my dad has like the nostrils he can look out of in that. And then for my guy, the red guy, that's a hard hat underneath, and then it's expanded PVC sheet that's been heat bent and glued in place, and then filled and sanded and sculpted, and some of the other details like cut into things, and then all painted up. And,
Wow.
like the jacket, the cape, the pants, the bracers, the shin guards, the gun, the belts, all that stuff. We made all that stuff. Her cyborg arm, we made that.
The
Wow.
biggest pain was doing your jacket, John, with the
Yeah.
little fringe on it.
Yep.
So you had to fake that.
Yeah, that is just, I mean, it is absolutely astounding. So basically, if you can't find it as a piece of clothing that you would wear, like from whenever that you could get from somewhere, you guys buy the fabric, sew it together, or piece all of this stuff together, including like the weapons and stuff that you guys are, the carrying and stuff. You guys sculpt and do all of that as well?
Yeah.
Wow. That is
Well,
just
a
amazing.
lot of times stuff comes out, and there's people, you have the RPF, and you have different groups, and those people are on top of things like lickety split. Like a trailer could come out, and they've analyzed it. They've done like freeze frames, and now with like with 3D modeling software and whatnot, you have the guys who are like instantly starting to create like Kylo Ren's lightsaber, and all they had was like a single screen grab of it from one trailer, and within hours that's already done, and you can probably find the file and download it and print it and stuff like that. When it's new stuff, that's kind of how things are. Older stuff, it gets a little bit harder because there's less interest in it.
Right.
But a lot of times when you're doing, I guess, less popular characters, you're more on your own because you're going to have to figure everything out. There's not like a legion of people out there that are all trying to crack this code and figure this out and how to make this.
Gotcha.
Because given just enough time, like with these characters, given enough time, there's other people out there that have figured it out, and they're like, hey, I can download the file and make the helmet now.
Right. So, like, Rebecca, what did you use to do like the headpieces?
Oh, the Leku?
Yeah.
I sculpted it out again, taking that casting on my head. I sculpted it out of a water-based clay first, and then we molded that, and then did castings in latex. And
Gotcha.
then the latex is hollow, so we filled it with those micro beads that are like in Beanie Babies,
Right.
so that it's lightweight. Because God, if that thing was solid latex, that'd be heavy.
I know.
So just the outer skin is latex, and it's filled with the micro beads.
That's amazing.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
John, your dad, like, how long did he last in this costume?
A good couple hours.
They
Good
got
couple
built-in
hours.
fans in there, so he's okay.
Yeah, sometimes we do that. Plus, the other thing is, so that alien's face, there's kind of a weird, like, there's a harness that sits on his shoulders that goes up to kind of like a halo-like crown that's underneath there, and then that whole face just kind of lifts in place and then drops down and sits right there. So when he needs a break or something like that, you just peel the hood back and you lift the face off, and you're like, the face is now off, and you can eat, you can drink, you can catch your breath.
That's fantastic. That is cool. All right. Let's go to the next one. again. So you guys sculpted that whole mask of John's. Is that right?
Mhm.
And then
He sculpted it many times.
Shut up.
I make fun of him for how many times he's redone his Bosk. Because he never gets it perfect in his mind, so he's always
Yeah,
has to redo
it's
it.
not. Yeah, I keep George Lucasing it. I'm like, I'm gonna go back and fix it. So like, which is appropriate. But yeah, I've redone. I have so many revisions on that costume, and I've redone the mask a couple times. Whereas like the first mask was one that I bought from somebody, then I modified, and then I wasn't satisfied with that, and I'm like, okay, well I'm gonna make my own mask. And then when I made it, it was very very snug on my head. And then it was like, okay, well, note to self: when I make it, I need to compensate for how much the latex is going to shrink, and I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit more roomy, and then
Right.
remake it
Did
again.
you also not keep your molds? Because one thing is latex doesn't last. You're gonna have to after a couple years, you're gonna have to recast it. And yeah, I guess you think to yourself, instead of just digging out that mold, I might as well just make a new one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because I can make improvements.
Right. So the latex that you guys are using, like, it's not going to last. Something that's going to disintegrate over time, and you're going to have to remake pieces and parts of the costumes that you've got. Now, like these costumes that you've made, as far as like the sewing and the things that do last, do you like have a warehouse full of, and I'm joking with that in a way, but do you like have a place where like you keep all of that stuff?
They're all around our house. I'm looking at like 6 of them lined up in my room, and then this little guy behind me. So they're like all over the place.
Gotcha.
Yep.
People come into our house and they're like, "Is that a robot upstairs?" And we're like, "Yep."
Yep.
Well, it's funny because things, as soon as you make something, you don't realize that, and it's a bit upsetting. And the people in the 501st or the different Star Wars costume clubs can kind of tell you that you don't realize that just wearing a costume for a couple hours and standing around and posing for pictures, that it does deteriorate. The wear and tear of like putting it on, taking it off, putting it in a bin, storing it for a few months, then putting it back on. Things start to give up, things start to die. And again, the Florida heat isn't your friend. So like adhesives, the self-adhesive Velcro or certain kind of glues and stuff like that, or certain kind of plastics that aren't UV resistant, you'll see it deteriorate over time.
Mm-hmm.
So even stuff on mannequins, it's upsetting because you'll put something on a mannequin and that poses its own problem because, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen this in a museum, but sometimes the fluorescent lights in a museum, and this is a tip for anybody who's got fluorescent lights like aimed at their collection of toys, the fluorescent lights actually have pretty strong UV and will bleach out materials.
Oh,
So
wow.
you might go to a museum and you see something that's like 100 years old and it's like a cloak or something like that, and then the thing is, if they moved it or they shifted it, inside where the shadows are is actually the original color, and everything else has been bleached, like it's been sitting in a window in direct sunlight for years because that UV. So that's something we keep in mind. That's one of the reasons why the room that Rebecca's in isn't a natural color. We just keep it weird colors to help fight that.
Gotcha.
I mean, but
And it looks
it's cool. And it looks cool.
It does. It looks cool behind it like that. I mean, I think that's neat. So, Stephanie posed a question: do you find it difficult to determine a piece is finished? Like you can't. Is it hard to say, okay, yeah, this piece is done now, we've got it, or is it something that's pretty easy? You're looking at it and you're like, yeah, this is done.
Most of the time, it is hard. You just have to stop yourself. It's good enough kind of thing.
Yep.
It's like that with any form of art, where you're just like,
Yeah,
I gotta stop touching it. I gotta stop working on it. I gotta call it done. So,
it's never finished.
Yeah, it is.
It's abandoned.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And we're at 55 minutes in, and looks like we've got 45 people here. We're going to take this down a minute. We have a couple of giveaways that we are going to give away tonight. So if you guys will bear with us, we're coming back to that, I promise. The first thing that we are going to give away is we had a wonderful anonymous donor come to Amber and give her some stuff for us to give away on our show. And first of all, shout out, thank you. You know who you are. We appreciate it. And one of the first things that we're going to give away this week is a silver horn century. Now, if you know me, and most of you do, I have mine sitting on my desk.
Out somewhere too.
I love him. I think he is amazing, and I have waited years for him. So we are going to give away a silver horn century tonight. So everybody get ready for your hashtags. We have one more giveaway that we're going to do later. But this is going to be the first one. And you guys, again, bear with me while I share my screen. Share screen. StreamYard. Allow. All right. So we are going to start collecting hashtag Silverhorn. You guys put your entries in, and we are going to take a few minutes and talk about a couple of more things with John and Rebekah, and then we will revisit this and count those entries. Again, Silverhorn Century, you guys know that is amazing. I know that everybody wants one because they're gorgeous. All right. Okay, now let's go back to here. All right. Thank you guys for letting me do that real quick. We're going to see if we can give away some toys tonight.
That's awesome.
Next one. Now, there are a few in here that I saw where you guys actually, like, yes, you're cosplay, and yes, this is a little bit more than just wearing your clothes, but how nice is it to go out in something like this as opposed to something, you know?
Oh, it's so nice.
like you can walk around for a long time with this on, right?
Yeah.
Well, this was during the pandemic, so we got to get creative with how are we going to wear masks with our costumes. So,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And that's a neat way to do it, too. That is fantastic. Yes. I love it. So most of this stuff you guys found, there was probably a little sculpting in like these costumes, but not a ton. Is that?
We just sewed these. Yeah, I completely sewn all of it. I can't remember what John, with your your pistol and everything.
So yeah, the blaster I made, the droid collar I made, the respirators we made, her comm badge, her wrist comm. Those were files that we downloaded, printed, and put together. But yeah, her whole Leia costume she put together. She sewed all that. You know, she worked out her own pattern. And my jacket, yeah. And there's a lot of referring to pictures and trying to figure out like those 4 pockets on his jacket and how they're just completely fake. They're just flaps. That just sit there. They're not real pockets at all. They're a flap on top of a flap to make it look like a pocket.
Oh wow. Okay.
That's cool.
That is cool.
Trevor asked if you guys were at Celebration.
Mm-hmm. We were in 2017. We were at Celebration.
Very cool. All right, and then this one. this is crazy to me. Again, that whole face thing. So was your face like painted white? I mean, makeup white, or is that whole thing sculpted?
Yeah, that's sculpted. That's another character where I keep trying to get it perfect. So I did latex, and then I tried my hand at silicone, and I sucked at silicone and made it way too heavy, and then I went back to latex. So that's like a latex mask over my face with like a latex bondage cowl over top of that.
Gotcha.
Oh.
This is so cool. Yeah, I looked at that and was just amazed. And again, here are two that I think you would be a lot more comfortable just
Oh yeah.
hanging out
Way
all
more comfortable.
day. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, well, you know that I don't know how true it is, but that expression with every, especially if you're in a cold climate, with every layer of clothing you put on, you're adding 10 degrees. It's the same thing. Like, you got to consider that in a costume, it's the same way. So the more I've noticed, the more skin you're covering, the hotter it gets. So if you at least have like your face uncovered or your hands uncovered or some element that's allowed to vent the heat, your comfort level drastically increases. So again, like, the less you're covered up, the more comfortable you are.
Right.
And the more a costume is like normal everyday clothes, like pants with pockets or jackets and belts and stuff like that, having that ability to go to the bathroom or sit down is such a huge deal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And I can't imagine. I just don't even want to think about you in that full gold and then think to yourself,
That's
I gotta
not
get-
as bad as, say, like John Scorpius outfit where he was just like sweating to death in that thing.
yeah.
Oh my god.
That's amazing. So,
I
and
love this.
I know, isn't that beautiful? I really like that.
Dark crystal was one of my favorite things.
Me too. Oh, that show. The funny thing is, we made these costumes in what, 2 days?
Yeah, we didn't. So at the Center for Puppetry Arts, they periodically do themed balls. They had, like a labyrinth one, and then they did a dark crystal one. And we didn't realize that we were going to go to the dark crystal one until we were just about to leave. And we're like, oh, we're going to go to that? Okay, that's terrific. It wasn't, on our radar. So 2 days before we left to go to the convention, we were throwing these together.
Wow. That is amazing that you were able to do something like this in 2 days. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Yep, that's the reference photos for from that game for the costumes.
oh, that's cool. Those are very, very neat. And then, so again, is this a mask, or is it sculpted all the way around, or is it just on the front?
For Hordak, that's it goes almost all the way back.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't go back to the neck, but it goes well behind the ears.
Gotcha. Okay. It's just amazing.
Spot
then-
on.
Yeah. And then the sword, did you print that, or did you make that, or did you purchase that?
No, we made that. It's made out of expanded PVC sheet.
Okay.
And yeah, the jewel I cast myself, and
Wow.
yeah, and then the handle's wood, and then those little ball things that you see at the end. I used the deodorant balls that we had. We don't throw those away. We just save them. After
Like the roll-on deodorants that you
the
get.
roll-ons, yeah, the little plastic
Yeah.
balls that come in those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We have a
My
little
da-
drawer of those.
yeah.
so-
My dad uses that kind of deodorant, and he saves the plastic balls out of them because he knows that we use them for sculpting. Because sometimes they're a good placeholder for eyes, like in creatures and stuff. Or
Oh,
in
yeah.
some cases, we can use it for this kind of thing. So she, like with that sword, she sat down with I think we had grid paper for once. I don't think it was just standard loose leaf, but she laid out the paper and she created a paper template for how big she wanted it. Because a lot of her stuff she has to scale to her size, because otherwise it'll look, odd or inappropriate. So her sword is scaled to her size.
Right.
And then from that paper template, she then cut it up into component pieces and says, okay, well, I'm going to need X number of these. I'm going to need X number of these. And then we sit there and transfer that to the plastic. In some cases, it's like high impact styrene or expanded PVC sheet or EVA foam, whatever it might be. We transfer it to that, and then we cut it out, and then we start our assembly process of, cutting the different pieces and gluing them together and seeing where we have to Dremel or take it in or whatever. And then, she put all that together. In fact, that whole costume she put together. I mean, it's this one of those costumes. The only thing she purchased were the boots, and even the boots got modified with the fur and painted gold and had the shin guards added.
Wow. It's just beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. And this is another, I chose this one because this was a really good picture of you with that sword and the whole outfit. And then, John, like, I know that you guys don't collect the entire collection of Mythic Legions, but they do the Motu tributes, and this is many faces, right?
Yep.
And in the pictures, and I could not fit all of the pictures on here, but in the pictures you have all three faces in here, and I think that's really cool. That it's kind of it really does relate to, or for me, because I didn't grow up with Master of the Universe, so for me, I'm seeing all of these like the first time through my Mythic Legions journey. And to see this here reminded me of the figure rather than, the figure reminded me of, or, the opposite way. So I thought this was really cool how you were able to do the three faces. Can you kind of tell us how you did that?
Yeah, that's what we live in an era where we can make all this stuff actually happen. We can add electronics to things and make things glow and light up. We can add, kind of special effects to things. We can add fog machines to stuff, and we can put L wire in things to make it look like it's lightning. And it's just fun to sit there and problem solve and figure out, well, how can I accomplish this function that this character is supposed to have? And with the old toy, because I had that figure as a kid, the old toy, there was just a knob on his head, and the three faces were inside kind of a cylinder. His body was hollow, and he would just rotate it, and the face would show up or line up. So it's like, well, how can I do that, but always have my face in place? So the idea was to just have like one face here, one face here. And then the thing is, when I needed to change, I'm basically just rotating this way, or I'm rotating this way, which meant that the thing on my head is just a garbage can. That's a $5 plastic garbage can from Walmart.
Wow.
And then the next thing would be that there's almost like the same kind of method you would see with like a Lazy Susan in your cabinet type thing, in which it has an axle or a rod at the top, which is suspending a frame which is around my head that allows it to pivot. And then down just underneath my chin on the garbage can is a slide that goes left, right. And the hardest part was to figure out the length of the groove that I needed, so that when I moved the slide over, it would align each face and take up the whole slot. And then after that was done, then it was, okay, well, I have how the mechanism would work, because I just used little pieces of cardboard to represent each face until I figured out that whole mechanical part of it. And then once I had that figured out, it's like, okay, well, now I can take take that, and then we can have the fun part is the sculpting the creatures and stuff like that. And I turned it over to her. I said, you're great at sculpting stuff, and it would be a lot of fun to see your version of the beast or the monster. And I said, I'll take care of the robot, and you just take care of that one.
That's fantastic. But yeah,
Cool.
it is really, really neat. And like I said, I was blown away when I saw the pictures of all three of those faces. I thought, now that's genius. I don't know how he did it, but that's genius. All right. And then this is again, and this is a new outfit here that we haven't seen for you, Rebekah. Now, again, you've sculpted the crown.
Yeah, and then I did everything on this costume. I think the only thing I didn't make was I didn't cast the jewels, the purple jewels on my belt. Yeah,
Okay.
this was William Stout's design for She-Ra in the 1987 Masters of the Universe movie, but her part was cut. But William Stout designed her, and she was going to be in the movie. She just didn't make it in there, so I was like, I'll do that She-Ra costume.
Yeah, that's
I
fantastic.
like it.
Yeah, I love this. That's
Mhm.
beautiful. All right, we are going to bring you down. We have given them about 20 minutes to put their names in. So let's see if we can draw for the Silver Horn Sentry. Again, you guys have a few minutes while I share my screen. Hashtag Silverhorn. So that you can win a Silverhorn Sentry. We have 32 entries. Count it
And
down.
55 watching.
All right, come on. Give me a couple more. 34. Good job, good job. Any more?
Here we go. We're going up.
We're going up. Come on. Hashtag Silverhorn to win a Silverhorn Sentry. You can't tell me that wouldn't be awesome. Okay. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's draw. All right. All right. Jay Evans,
Yeah.
24. All right.
Hooray!
Woo! If you,
Congratulations.
yes, congratulations. If you will get up with Amber or myself, we will
Get that right
that-
out to you.
get that right out to you. We are looking forward to sending that out. Again, Silverhorn Sentry, we are super excited. We will have one more giveaway, probably start at around 9, maybe. While we're still talking with John and Rebekah, let's go back. Got a few more costumes to get through. This is so fantastic. And again, this was great. This is like a helmet. It just goes on the same way that a helmet would. And did you make your sword here too, John?
No, I didn't. I cheated. I discovered there's a very, very big supply chain that helps provide weapons for the LARPing community. So I just go on there and it can almost be addictive because there's so many great, foam weapons out there. It's like, oh, that one looks good. That one looks good. Look at this elvish one. Look at this, look at this glaive and look at this sword and stuff like that. And a lot of times you have to budget your time. You have to budget what it's going to cost you in labor and material costs and this and that to make a prop or to make something. And my philosophy is if somebody else is out there making it and it's cost effective and it looks good, it's going to arrive in time, then you might as well just buy it. Just, save yourself, because the thing is you can take yourself off that. I wouldn't have to sit there and fabricate a sword to go with the costume, I can then focus on other parts of the costume while I'm just waiting for the sword to arrive.
Gotcha.
You know? And so when it comes to props, I don't mind so much just buying a prop as opposed to, like portions of the costume. But again, if let's say, I wanted to do this character and is like, well, I can buy the material and I can formulate plans and this and that, or somebody out there might have that helmet for a fair price, then yeah, I might just buy the helmet.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And
This one's really good.
this one is so amazing.
This is definitely a bucket list costume for me, was Tila, because I just always loved her and resonated with her, and that action figure it's one of my favorite action figures ever made. So yeah, I just knew I wanted to do the snake armor Tila with her staff.
Just amazing. And then John, this whole, oh my gosh, like I can't even imagine.
Yeah, that's so she liked Tila, and I was always in love with the creature from the Black Lagoon. So anytime there's some kind of gill man, I gravitate towards the gill man. So with Masters, they have Merman, which is the perfect substitute for that.
Right.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah, his mask is latex. Tila's headpiece, the very top, that's latex.
So, like, how often do you wear these costumes? So, obviously you have them here. How many cons do you think over the course of, and like you said, they disintegrate. So over the course of time, how many cons do you think you go to with this same costume?
These ones we've actually worn a lot, to cons. 3 cons?
I think, yeah, because we had PowerCon, you had the first version of Tila, and I had my first version of Merman. And then DragonCon, when we did our little group with Kendall, and then this is Toy Lanta of last year, which that's version 2 of Merman's head, and that's the snake headpiece Tila.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we try to get, especially before it disintegrates, we try to get as much use out of it as we can.
Yeah,
before things fall apart.
Absolutely.
I mean, we can always make new ones. We have the molds for all of them still, so we can always recast it. But want to get that work.
How long did this one take you guys to do?
What do you think? It's hard to say because I made most of the Tila costume. I have 2 versions of Tila, so I have the snake headdress one, and then the classic Filmation version of her, which is just this outfit without the snake armor and just her hair up in a bun. So I did that one the previous year, and then the year after I made the snake armor to add on to it. So it's, I don't know, probably a month, 2 months to make it for mine.
Yeah,
And
it's hard to say because some parts go faster than others. If it's a fun process, it always, time flies when you're having fun. It goes by really fast. So the sculpting of her headpiece and the sculpting of my mask, we usually start something, let's say on Thursday night or Friday, and then come Sunday morning, we're usually already molding it then. So that means that in that time, we've already gone from nothing exists to just throwing clay onto a form. And then come Sunday morning, we have what we want, and we're just molding it to get it ready so that we can cast it. So that part always goes by super fast. It's the tedious, repetitive stuff of, I need 48 of these little pieces, and I have to sit there and Dremel them all out. Or I need 16 of this, and they need to all be the same. And you're just sitting there for hour after hour and with a dust mask and making a whole bunch of dust. And you're like, okay, well, there's my pile,
I can absolutely see that. I was creating a custom figure, and I've got all of the hands, like
Oh,
all the hands that came with him. So I was painting all of those hands white, and it was just, I was just like, is this ever going to end?
Yeah, do
like
you
I
feel
never
like
want to see another hand again.
do you feel like you got in trouble? Like, remember in school when you would do something bad and they would make you write sentences, and you're like, you need to write 200 times. I will not, whatever. And you're like, oh, it's taking forever.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh. But yes, I understand completely. Right. And this was fun.
Yeah, these were really fun. Mine was really comfortable.
I was going to say, yeah, you can
John's
just
is
get yours
a
on
little
and
bit more
go.
cumbersome. Yeah. It took a while to do the body paint, but after the body paint, it was pretty comfortable. John's was a little warm, I'm sure, though.
We'll split duties on stuff where I don't want to say that if one of us is more proficient at something than the other person, but there's definitely, when it comes to like sculpting teeth, or it comes to sculpting certain things in miniature or stuff like that, I hand stuff over to her because she's so good at it, and like has the right sensibility of like how to get whatever I'm trying to get accomplished across. And then at the same time, there'll be other stuff where it's like, oh, you need holes drilled in this, or oh, you need this cut, or oh, you need me to make dust. Then I'll go do that.
Right. And then this was another fun one that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
This is a deep cut. These two characters were in one episode of Masters of the Universe. So, but I love the character so much that I talked him into being Lord Maskwell. I wish it Cody.
But because they're obscure, only the people who like really know the show and really see, what you've done are the ones that can, truly appreciate, all the work that went into creating those characters.
It'd be really cool to see like mythic customs of those, because those are already so similar to some of the characters we see in Mythic Legions. To see somebody do customs of those.
Oh yeah, that would be fun.
That would be.
Let's see. And then I've seen, now I don't know how often you guys have done these characters, but I've seen them on your site several times.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well,
go ahead.
John's done the Monarch longer. I've only just recently made the Dr. Mrs.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That's just gorgeous. Just beautiful. All right. Now this is when we're going to get really interesting. So this is Legions Con, but the first time that I saw you guys dressed in this way was Toylanta last year.
Mm-hmm.
So where did you come across those figures, and what made you want to create like these specifically?
Well, these were our first Legion figures.
Right.
That's when we were like, okay, we need to get those. Those are too fucking cool. But
where did you come up at? Where did you see them? Like, where did you come across the figures themselves?
Online. Like, okay. Well, I mean, I've always followed the Four Horsemen since, they did the classics with Masters of the Universe.
Right.
But then, like, their Mythic Legion stuff popped up online. We're always, like, admiring it. We're like, oh, these are so cool. This is, like, the coolest arch figure line out there with their original designs and all this stuff. And then John got these two, and he was like, we need to do these costumes. He's like, you're the perfect size for a goblin. He's like, I can be a skeleton warrior. So.
Well, it's remember, because we both love the movie Legend that has, goblins and whatnot. And we like Labyrinth that has goblins in it. And that was always one of those things. It's like, oh, it would be so cool to do a goblin costume.
Yeah.
And have it look kind of like that, where it's short and the big head and the long ears and all that stuff. And then if you've watched Harryhausen films, Jason the Argonauts to Sinbad and whatnot, there's always skeleton warriors in it, and that's something that's like ingrained in people's minds, like seeing like a reanimated skeleton. And just years and years ago, I bought not this one. I bought a different skeleton warrior, and it was like, this is so cool. And then when I saw these guys, I'm like, oh well, that's perfect. That's what I want, because I love that helmet with that visor. It's very Gazer Beam from The Incredibles. So I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to find some way to do that. And then it just so happened that Walmart had like a really good but cheap skull mask that I bought, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, let's push this forward. And it's like, Mythic, Four Horsemen are going to be at Toylanta, so here's our motivation. Like, let's do these we've been invited to Toylanta. It's a toy themed convention. Those guys are going to be there, so let's do something from that line, because it aligns with stuff that we like anyway. So
these were fantastic, and I know that the Four Horsemen that were there, I mean, they were blown away at how amazing that you guys did these costumes, and how wonderful that they were. And I was so surprised and so awesome. The best picture, and I don't have it here, I wish I did, is the picture of each one of you holding the figure that you are representing. To me, that is the coolest thing. Because they are so, I mean, it's like you stepped out of those packages. And I think that
I think they thought it was funny that we just, like, out of the hundreds of characters they have with like named characters,
right.
I think it's funny that they're looking at us like, why did they just do like the generic army builder versions of this? And to me, I'm like, what are you talking about? These guys look awesome. Like, I'm gonna make it look exactly like the toy. I'm not even gonna customize it or anything like that, or my own rendition of it. I'm like, no, this is good enough straight out of the package.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic. And I was, yeah, it literally looks like you opened a package. And I think one of the first photos I saw of you guys, I was like, is that a figure? And then I saw you with a person. I'm like, no, they're dressed up like that. That was just fantastic. So to me, it was amazing to see. And then, once I was able to actually come around and see you at Toylanta, that was fantastic. But I love this. I think that it was amazing. And I think it's a great, like, first costume. Sorry, it was a great first costume that I got to see. I loved it. And then that was so great.
It was so great.
Picture.
Yeah, I love this picture. So is this at Legion's Con then?
No, that's at Toylanta.
Toylanta? Was that
Yep.
everybody that was at Toylanta? Okay.
Yep,
All right.
that was the gang that was there. Yep.
That's awesome. And then when you did this one, I know this is Red Death, and it's amazing. And
Sorry.
my goodness, how amazing Rebekah looks here. I mean, oh my goodness. When you debuted this Red Death, where were you at? Like, what con were you at? Because it wasn't Legion's Con.
That was at Monsterama.
Gotcha.
Which was, that was in October, and I think wasn't that just like
Right before.
two or 3 weeks before Legion's Con?
Right. And did they know who you were? Like, when people saw you that were not Mythic Legion's people, did they know who you were? Like, who you were representing?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, he's, that look. I think that they could gather, what it was or what it was inspired from.
Right. I gotcha.
There was two guys there that were big Four Horsemen fan, and they were like, "Oh my god!" It's like, I can't believe, like, dude, they just announced that figure not that long ago. Blah blah blah. How are you already dressed up? And,
Yeah, you were on top of it.
So Maverick is asking, I should have asked at Legion's Con where you guys got the red cloak from. I'm assuming that you made them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. That's so a lot of times we're looking for material that doesn't look like your normal Halloween store costume material. So, not just plain shiny stretch polyester or something like that. It's something that's going to have some texture to it, or something that has more character to it. So when we found this material at the fabric store, I'm like, oh, that's it. That's perfect. That's going to add enough texture to everything. And especially because the hood and the two long portions are one material, and then the actual robes are a different material. So because the robes are more like kind of like a Roman toga, whereas the hood's a different material.
Gotcha. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then this, Rebecca, was amazing.
Amazing.
And everybody over here, Alithia and Red Death at Legion's Con showstopper for sure. Alithia was amazing. You guys were the best addition to our community.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's like, Alithia and Red Death were awesome at Legion's Con. And when I found these pictures on Instagram, I think maybe, of the sculpt, this is gorgeous. I mean, so after you got all of this like together, and do you just paint it? Like where in the process are you here?
This is right before we added the last big horns in the back. And then after that, it would be a final sand on everything, making sure everything's smooth, and then a paint job after that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
Or we would coat it in Plastidip first and then paint it.
Gotcha.
Which Plastidip is like a rubber that it just kind of coats everything. Like it's like it feels like the handle in your car, your steering wheel in your car. So it puts that rubber protection over everything and makes things paint evenly. Because if I just went over that with paint, like the rubber snakes may have not taken the paint as same way that the EVA foam would have taken the paint. So the Plastidip just adds, one, a coat of protection, and two, like everything, a uniform color and texture so that the paint can stick to it.
That is simply
So,
amazing. Yeah, go ahead.
The idea for that came from Toylanta last year.
Yeah.
Remember? So what happened? Can you tell the story?
They just said pick out what characters you want to do for Legion's Con, and she's caught my eye, so I just picked her up, and they're like, "Oh, that's yours then." I'm like, awesome. And I was like, "Oh God, do I have my work cut out for me?" And we did. God, we made this in such short time.
Wow.
I ordered John ordered me the white contacts, and they didn't come in time for the con, so we ended up painting my eyelids white for the show.
But
just so like I could close them.
Yeah, when you were taking pictures and you closed them, it looked just like her.
I'm amazed. We've never
cool.
tried that before. And John was like, I think I can do it. So I was like, all right, I trust you because I can't see them, obviously. Well,
right. Yeah, that was awesome. And then the belt that you did here. So
that's my favorite part.
Did you sculpt all of those bones and the spiked bones and stuff? Did you sculpt that, or did you find those, or?
No, he bought those for his Hordak costume, but it didn't end up using them. So we had them sitting in our garage forever. The only thing we did was we sharpened the ends of the bottom ones.
Right.
But they were all that shape before.
Gotcha. So that is.
Yeah, I think you got a pack of 20 for.
Yeah, it was.
$12
It was
or something.
It was some kind of weird plastic
How-
bones for like party favors or Halloween decorations or something like that. Because Hordak around his little collar, he's got a whole bunch of bones on it, and I was looking for a simple solution as opposed to sitting there again making a whole bunch of dust and dremeling down a whole bunch of bone or hand sculpting bone after bone after bone. I was looking for a simpler solution to handle that. And so I bought a couple packets of it, and years they just sat doing nothing. And then it's like, well, wait a minute, look at what's on Lithia's skirt. Like there's these, finger-like
We were like,
bones
wait a
that are
minute.
sharpened at the end.
Like, wait a minute, we have those.
Yeah.
That was
That's one.
a good deal.
That's one good thing about like hoarding stuff, I guess, is it's like, wait, I have that.
Yeah. If you remember it beforehand, it's
Right.
not
Yes.
when you think about it. You know,
Yep, that's happened.
we
I could have used this.
that would have made it a lot easier. And then this Red Death mask, it is amazing. So did you sculpt that just
So
like
it's like I said, that's another, and I have another one like in the same room. It's just a plastic Halloween skull, because
okay.
it's one of those things where when you come across something in the wild, you're like, oh, this would be great for such and such, or I can make like Skeletor out of this, or I can make this out of that, or I can make Waltor, the Cosmic Legion version.
Right.
And you come across something that looks good and it's in a good price range, you're like, yeah, I'm going to grab up as many as I can. So that's the same kind of mask that I use for the Skeleton Warrior. The only difference is I sat with some of the thinner pieces of craft foam, and I had to get Nate sent me some pictures of his forehead and whatnot so I could try to recreate it. And I'm messaging Nate. I'm like, what does the thing on his forehead represent? Is that a clock? Are those supposed to be like the hours, on a clock? And he's like, that's a good question. You should ask so and so. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, I have a feeling it's supposed to be the clock, and it's supposed to like the whole midnight thing. So I just layered up the foam a little bit at a time till I got the proper depth and put in enough of the detail in there, and then just glued that down to the skull itself. And then for the dangly bloody portions or whatever those are supposed to be, again, that's just EVA foam that's been cut and ground into shape. And then I glued that in place, and then I coated the whole thing with a thin layer of latex, the same latex we use to make the masks and stuff. And then that helped seal everything, and any gaps or any spaces got filled in with that. And then it also helped coat these guys, and it remains flexible so that like if I turn or I bump it or something sits on it, they're not going to take damage, because you do a lot of problem solving where you're trying to figure out how can I make this thing survive and not break in transit or
Right.
packing it or whatever. So I'm like, if I can keep those guys flexible, then they'll survive. I don't want to make them rigid, because then they'll just crack and break.
Gotcha. That's amazing. And then I think the last slide that I've got is just the full of you two. Oh my gosh. I mean, just beautiful.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is. I am in awe of the talent that it takes for you guys to do that. I mean, literally in awe. It is gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
So how does Legion's Con compare to some of the other cons that you guys have been to? Now, I know that there's not as many people doing cosplay and stuff, but just the con itself. Like, how did you guys like coming to the con? How was the people? How did you feel?
I loved it. It was one of the best con experiences I've ever had, just because of the attitude there. Everybody's just there for the love of Legions, and it's just yeah, there's no bad energy there. It's just everybody's so kind and sweet and cool, and it's just I loved everybody I met and talked to there. So definitely one of my favorite con experiences. And I hope to see more like costumes next year or this
Oh,
year.
I'm sure we will. That'll be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Well, you guys have given inspiration.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope
A
so.
lot
There
of
was a couple more people. There was a few people in costumes, and that was really cool to see. So I hope to see more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what cons are you guys doing that, like, if we're out and about and we're at a con, where can we see you? What's the plan? Do you have a plan for this year, or is it just the next month?
Oh no, we have Toylanta in 3 weeks, so we're going crazy trying to deal with that.
I'll see you there.
And then in April, there's a little one-day convention here in our hometown. Well, kind of our hometown. There's a little one-day convention called Melbourne Toy and Comic Con, and that's always fun. It's funny because sometimes it's kind of like a big garage sale because people just bring bins of stuff, like toys, loose toys, just in bins.
Right.
There's that, and then we get a nice break for a while, and in August is Monsterama again, and another little break, and I think there might be one or two things in October, and then Legion's Con again in November.
Awesome. Great.
The thing I liked about Legion's Con was we've been to a couple makers fairs, and the makers fairs were so much fun because it's, this guy's making this and this guy's, having demonstrations on how to solder, and this, somebody's showing like 3D printing stuff, and like everybody's they have a skill set and they're showing it off. And at Legion's Con, it was like that. It was almost like a big makers fair because, this guy just does heads and these people just do soft goods. And then this guy has just a whole bunch of dioramas, and like the level of creativity and skill, it's like, you have custom painters over here and this and that. It wasn't just wall to wall Funko Pops or Marvel Legends and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of creativity, and everybody kind of knows each other, and everybody is kind of like pushing each other on the creativity, what can each other accomplish. They're getting different ideas from one another. It was cool. I mean, we get along with those people because they go through a similar process that we go through. They understand the whole paints reacting to each other, like painting on certain surfaces and how it doesn't want to actually adhere to it, like all the prep work and sequencing and stuff that you have to go through, the pre-planning, the pre-visualization, all that kind of stuff. We get along with those people usually more so than fellow cosplayers for whatever reason. But it's it was
Not that
great
we don't get
because
along with other cosplayers.
it is, we can connect. We've watched the same movies, we're inspired by the same things, and we know the trials and tribulations of trying to make stuff.
Right. Well, it's the art. It's the art behind it. And I think that's one of the things that stands out about the things that I've seen from you guys, in every single costume, is just the stinking artistry of it. It is gorgeous. All right. We're running out of time. I've got to do this last giveaway. Please bear with me as I do this again. All right, guys, we are going to give away. Thank you to Anthony Housil with the Toy Forge. He is donated a head and sword for us to give away tonight. And so I am going to share my screen again, where I'm still learning how to do all of this. So if you guys will give me the hashtag the Toy Forge. Hashtag the Toy Forge. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you
for doing it. What great surprise that was. So you
Yes,
guys give us
absolutely.
a hashtag the Toy Forge, and then we are going to hide. Where am I at? There we are. Let's remove that. Okay. So we have a few minutes while we're collecting those. We are not going to get through all of our questions because, gosh darn it, we just had so much fun with you.
Yes.
We were so excited. But you know that we do have a random question. So for the next few minutes, we are just going to randomly pop out some questions. Amber, don't go in order. Just pick whatever question you want, and I'll make sure not to use it next time. But if you'll start,
Okay.
we'll go through.
All right, well, let me pull up my questions. Hold on. All right. What is your favorite vacation spot?
I've not been on enough vacations to know. I went to Savannah. I love Savannah. That was fantastic. We went on our honeymoon there.
Oh. That sounds like fun.
Same answer. I don't know. I haven't had that vacation yet.
Savannah is one of my favorite towns
I
ever.
love it. It's so beautiful.
Gorgeous area and beautiful answer. I love it. Okay. What is your favorite food?
Ooh, I love sushi.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. He doesn't. He hates it. I love it though.
It's fine. I don't have to eat it, so it's fine. I don't know. I have a lot of favorite foods. I mean, pizza, tacos, everything that's bad for you.
Yeah, of course.
All right, Amber, you're up.
All right, let's see. What is your favorite movie?
The Last Unicorn.
Oh, you're so fast. I don't know.
Star Wars New Hope is his favorite movie.
Yeah, sure. or Dark City, or RoboCop, or yeah.
Oh, RoboCop. That's a good one.
So you can't say that Star Wars is your favorite movie. I have learned from a very early age in when my husband and I started dating at the ripe age of 16. Star Wars is not a movie. It's the greatest motion picture of all time. Okay. What was your favorite Christmas gift that you got as a kid?
Oh my gosh. That's hard to. I don't think I was ever so excited when I got a Wonder Woman action figure when I was little. I just got so excited when I saw that, so I'll say that.
Okay.
I think for me it would be probably the Rebel Troop Transport.
Oh yeah.
The Kenner Rebel Troop Transport.
That's awesome.
So with that, I'll follow up with what was your favorite Christmas gift this year?
What did we get this year?
It's literally me every year.
Oh, you got me
You got Trapjaw.
You got me no, you got me Skeletor.
Skeletor, sorry. Get this year. It was a pretty lean Christmas, so don't make fun of me. I'm like, I don't even remember. I don't. I'm sorry. I don't.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, let's go to the next one. What was your very first car?
Oh, mine was a what was it called? An electric car.
You had a Prius.
Prius, yeah. I love that car. But a hurricane killed it, so.
Oh
Yeah.
A hurricane
It flooded and it destroyed the computer in the car. And they
Battery.
were like, the battery. Well, the thing that made it an electric car, and they were like, there's no repair in this. You know, you could buy 2 new cars for the price it would to repair that. So it's like, okay. But
Oh.
yeah, Prius.
I had a Volkswagen Bug. So
What color?
Cool.
my first one was blue, and it had like a teal and hot pink Z down the side.
Ooh,
That's
that's
awesome.
fancy.
I know.
Let's see. What was your high school mascot?
I was homeschooled, so I get to skip this question.
You can just make up.
I get to pick up one.
It was the tarantula.
Tony the Tiger. I don't know.
That was a good one.
Mine was the Mustang. So we had horses.
Oh, that's cool. What is your favorite video game?
Ooh, that varies. Right now, it's Dark Tide, which is a Warhammer video game.
I thought you were gonna say Bigfoot.
Oh, that one too. Bigfoot is great too.
we play this Bigfoot game where you're supposed to be Bigfoot hunters, and you're either in the Yellowstone or Redwood or wherever it is, and Bigfoot is like mean and violent, and he's like chasing you down. So you have to run all over the place in the woods and set up traps and try to kill Bigfoot.
Awesome.
It is. It's crazy because he'll sneak up on you. You don't even know he's there. And the next thing you know, he's like pounding you into the ground, and you're trying to run away from him.
Oh my
Stuff like that.
All right, let's see. What's your favorite pizza topping?
Ooh, I like everything pizzas, so I like a lot of vegetables on mine. I like onions and peppers, olives. Yeah, I'm an everything.
Same.
person.
Keep it going. The basil, sometimes sun-dried tomato.
We have
different
a
kinds of
joking. We have a
cheeses.
joking when we're ordering it. Like, give me all the flavors.
That's awesome.
We did try this we tried this. There's this place in Columbus, Ohio for PowerCon. There's a place called Pie the Tiger that's like hidden away
God,
inside a
that's
bar. And there's a pizza. They have several specialty pizzas there, and they're not that big, but they have one that's a dill pickle pizza that's awesome.
Ooh.
Oh,
It's
wow.
it's
so
provolone
good.
cheese, a little bit of hot sauce, I think some ranch and like dill pickles. It's awesome.
Oh
Ooh,
man.
that sounds so good.
Yeah, that sounds
That's awesome.
delicious. So, favorite music artist or group?
David Bowie, Depeche Mode, Duran Duran. Those are the ones that come to mind first.
I'll stick with Depeche Mode.
Okay.
But I'm one of those
It's only
people where
got
well, at different points in my life, I like different things. Like in high
Yeah.
school, it was like, oh, I listened to DJ Magic Mike, and then like later it's like, oh, I listened to the Beastie Boys, and then later it was something else, and later it was something else. But the
Yeah.
one through line was always like Depeche Mode for whatever reason.
Gotcha.
Cats or dogs?
Cat. He's
Like lots
he's
of
looking.
them. I got one there.
We have
and I
4
got one
cats.
there.
That'd be
They're
awesome
everywhere.
if you just picked one up.
Like the crazy cat lady. I'm just picking them up and throwing them.
All right, we're going to draw and then we're going to ask you the last 2 questions that we've got. Let's go. Remember, hashtag the Toy Forge. We are going to give away the head and the sword that we have here. So let me Share. All right, we've got 27 entries. Come on, come on, come on. Do we have the Toy Forge? Let's get a couple more entries. Are they coming? Are they coming? Hashtag the Toy Forge.
We got one more.
Yay! All right. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's draw.
You didn't share.
Oh, wait.
Only you can see it.
Here
How
we
can
go.
we believe you?
Stacey
Okay.
Lynn.
See, Lynn wins.
How can we believe you?
I swear I thought it was sharing because it said to stop sharing. Sorry. I was there. Stacy Lynn. Woohoo! Stacy! Let me
Go
see
ahead,
if
girl.
share screen. Let me see if it's still up there.
This is what you won. This little head.
Winner, Stacy Lynn! Woohoo!
Yay!
All right, Stacy.
Oh, and she already knows what she's gonna do with it.
I
Love
knew
it.
she would. I knew she would. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Again, I'm just learning. I know. All right. Last two questions. So excited about these last two. How big are you hoping that the dragon from the Four Horsemen is going to be?
At least the size of Classics Granomir.
Like,
So he's like that big.
gotcha. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
Everybody always says like, I don't want it too big. It's got to fit on my shelf. If it's too big, it's not going to be able to fit on. It's like, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with big. You just hang them from the ceiling. You know,
That's
Exactly.
you build
He's a dragon.
you build the diorama around the dragon. You know,
exactly. Love that. Love that. All right, Amber, you get the last question.
All right. What is one thing you can tell us that you haven't told anyone else?
Ooh.
We love secrets.
I dread this question
We're working.
because I don't know like how introspective to be. I'm like, do I want to make everybody depressed, or do I talk about that time? Or...
So you're go
We
ahead.
are working on 2 new Legions costumes at the moment.
Yay! Can
Ooh.
we get just a hint? Not the actual thing, but just a hint. Is there a specific?
I've got the contacts that I need for this costume. So
Okay.
I
We'll
don't
take
know what
and-
that.
Yeah, and Billy's given us some good reference photos, so we're
Yep.
able to
Thank
use
you, Billy.
those. We've been, a lot of times what we do is we get the photos and we load them onto a tablet, and we keep the tablet plugged in the workshop, so we can go ahead and bring up those photos anytime we need to like look at stuff and try to zoom in.
Really zoom in on it, yeah.
If we don't have the figure, or if it's a cartoon or something like that, and then okay, let me backtrack. So that's one of the beautiful things about the Mythic Legions and the Cosmic Legions figures is, or pretty much any highly detailed figure, is you have this 3-dimensional blueprint that you can work off of.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
so you can sit there and look at it and be like, you can count the number of rivets, or you can look and see where a vent is, or see what kind of boots they're wearing, stuff like that. You can see the texture of something. So it's always super beneficial if we can get the toy to whatever it is, to have the toy in hand to work on the thing. And the toy will sit there in the workshop in all the dust while we're like looking over at it and like, am I getting this right? In this case, for what we're working on, one character, we're not going to see him for probably a couple years in toy form. And then the next one, well, she just came out. So we had to get somebody to send us some pictures.
Awesome. We can't wait. So we are super excited. We want to thank you. We try really hard not to go past 9:30. I am a 4 o'clock in the morning, got to get up kind of girl. So we try really hard to stop right at 9:30. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to tell you how much I truly appreciate you guys coming on, being on with us, talking to us, and just hanging out. This was the most fun, and I truly appreciate it. And really hope that you will consider coming back and hanging out with us again and letting us ask all kinds of more questions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for having
absolutely.
us. This has been awesome.
We love it. We thank you so much. We are going to pop you guys down real quick and go over things that is coming up this week, and then if you can hang around, we'd love to talk to you. If not, thank you again. We really appreciate it. All right. So, okay, Amber, we have, oh my gosh, so much up here.
Also, before we forget, Stacy, you can reach out to me for the parts.
Yes, Stacy. Amber has them. Contact her. All right. First of all, thank you to Immortal Collections for your sponsorship. We greatly appreciate it. We truly, truly appreciate your sponsorship. And thank you so much to Jenny, Carlo, and Tristan. We just cannot thank you enough. It's very sweet that you guys are sponsoring us. And lastly, upcoming shows. We have a ton of shows. If you're watching the show and you have a show and you don't show up here, let me know so I can add you. We've got all kinds of great stuff coming up. Just let me know and we will put you on the show on the thing on the day that your show comes out. Just let me know when that is. And all right, Amber, another week, another show. Woohoo! We did it.
Fantastic.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us with Rebekah and John. Simple Tricks and Nonsense. When you're out and about at the con, if you see them, go up and tell them how much that you appreciate them and the coolness that they have brought to Legions. This was amazing. All right.
Absolutely.
All right, Amber. Have a good weekend.
Good night.
Good night.